There's a part of every Dynasty roster that feels safe, but it quietly kills your team without you even realizing. By the end of this video, you'll know what assets on your team are keeping you trapped in terms of mediocrity versus guys that you can be getting, changing that mediocrity, or guys that can be studs and crush it for your team moving forward. This is a video that I've been very excited to make. It's a trap that the GOAT, me, personally fell into this season. So I got first-hand experience. I can help you guys out with this and to make things clear about what this Dynasty Dead Zone is. And I'm sure you got guys on your roster as well that we can do some things about. First thing is first. Let's talk about the Dynasty Dead Zone and what it actually is. So it's really where assets are holding perceived value, but that value is only going to be declining in the future. You're having an asset on your team that is potentially not, it's providing some value, maybe little value, maybe decent value, but like in terms of production, but the actual market value is not great for these players. They don't actually meaningfully improve your weekly lineup, your future ceiling, or your roster flexibility. We're going to get to some examples of these guys, man. Just some quick points on what these guys typically are so you can evaluate your roster real quick. You got mid-tier veterans, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3s, guys that are mid-tier. I'm talking guys that you don't want to have in your flex, but they're on your bench, and it's like, I guess I could flex them. Like a great example of this would be Michael Wilson prior to the Michael Wilson breakout. He's a little bit young, so it's not, I wouldn't necessarily classify him as a veteran. He was a year 3 guy, so there was more upside in him. But a guy like that, where he's averaging 9 points a week, like Josh Downs, imagine if Josh Downs was Josh Downs seems like Michael Wilson 2.0, where Josh Downs is kind of following the same career arc as Michael Wilson did, where 9 points, 13 points, and 9. It's just mid. Now, if he was older, he would classify as a veteran, and this would be the type of guy you want to be getting out of. The main one that I see way too much, and we're going to talk about this in depth, is running backs that are running backs without security and running backs that are older. We'll get some good examples of this, and this is the trap that I actually fell into personally, and this is a trap I ain't fallen into again. Picks that are in the Met range. So, I mean, if we look at picks, man, like your second round picks, these actually are going to have less value than you might be thinking, especially in 2026. Picks that are in the first round, you're going to probably have a good hit rate. You got to understand that the hit rates on picks go down as you get later and later in the draft. Sure, there are diamonds in the rough, and you're in the right spot because last year I picked Harold Fannin in round 3. I picked Arondé Gatson in round 5. I picked Tesla in round 4. So I'm hitting on these picks, and you guys will be hitting on them too. You're in the right spot. Subscribe, join the Discord and the Patreon, all that great stuff. There's guys in there, but the hit rates are low. Everyone else was missing. Like, there was only one guy in each of those rounds that really hit this season. Round 2 last year, there were some good players, but this year, it looks bleak in those rounds. So you might want to get some value that can actually produce rather than holding on to these mid picks. Tons of videos already on there. There's also some other guys that I would classify as Dynasty Dead Zone players. Young players without a clear trajectory for their career. Somebody that I would classify as a Dynasty Dead Zone right now, Trey Harris. Trey Harris, you spent good draft capital on him in the rookie draft, probably a round 2 pick. It's not looking good. Like, it was a bad rookie season. He got some usage towards the end of the year. He's always going to be behind Ladd. Gatson broke out. The big Q kind of broke out as well. Trey Harris, what do you do with this guy right now? Jack Besh, another great example of a guy you probably spent a round 2 rookie redraft pick on. He averaged 2 points per game. He's clogging your roster. But he did have, 80% snap shares. He did nothing with it towards the end of the year. What do you do with Jack Besh? This is a guy that's kind of like a Dynasty Dead Zone. So why do people get stuck in this Dynasty Dead Zone? I got a couple reasons right here. They feel too good to sell. They feel too good to sell. I don't want to sell Jack Besh. I don't want to sell Trey Harris. You know what Trey Harris did at college? This guy was a beast. Jack Besh, I just spent a lot of, you're too invested. That's another thing. They feel too good to sell, or you're too overly invested. You don't want to get out of them. You don't know when to pull the plug. Sometimes they feel too risky to buy. They feel too risky to buy a guy, so you don't want to hold. You don't want to go get him. They look safe. They feel responsible. So this will prevent managers from ever consolidating, never rebuilding, and never pushing all of their chips in onto the table. They just exist, and the dead zone, you know what happens when you live in this dead zone area? You're destined to finish as a 6th place team every single season. Do you want that? No. So let's get into a couple of the examples, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the trap that I fell into. Alvin, again, if you hear me say scam, any player that trolls me, I add scam to their name. So Alvin Scamera, this guy trolled me in 2025. I knew going into 2025, and this is two examples in one. My team was a contending team. I lost. I got fourth place last year. Coming into this season, I finished third this year, which was good. Should have went further in. But besides the point of that, listen, I had Kamara and David Montgomery as my running backs coming into the year. And I knew Kamara, I got to get rid of this guy. I had an offer on the table of 2 second-round picks, and I was like, you know what? I can't do it. I can't get rid of Kamara when he's my running back. So I didn't get rid of Alvin Kamara, and this is the definition of a Dynasty Dead Zone. It's an older running back, and the tip I have for you guys is always sell when the value is there, when you know it's going to decline. I knew his value was going to decline. He provided me little to no actual production this season. I had to trade a first-round pick for Judkins. Luckily, I also hit on a draft pick with Woody Marks. So David Montgomery as well, and Alvin Kamara. These guys are two perfect examples of the running back dead zone. Older running backs, they kind of have a role, and especially like Montgomery and Kamara both coming into this year. You could trade for a second-round pick and some. Now that Kamara had this season, he had his decline. Now that Montgomery had this season, had his decline, I'm screwed. They're both still on my roster. They're never going to see the light of day again unless something bad happens. The Judkins injury, I had to throw Montgomery back in the lineup. Right, so these guys are literally just middling assets on my team. They're not going to go up in value. They're only going to go down in value, and they're not going to produce for me at all. But, I keep telling you this. Nobody wants to trade for trash. So you have to trade trash when they're still viewed as, I don't want to say treasure, because usually that's not how it works. Usually they're viewed as like a piece of paper. It's useful. It's not trash, but it will be trash in the future. So that's kind of how I fell into that mistake with the middling running backs. Wide receivers. If we just go down and look at some guys that are like wide receiver 2s currently, I think Courtland Sutton is a great example. I mean, he's kind of falling into this Dynasty Dead Zone. He will be at least in the next year or two. I think Courtland Sutton, there's going to come a time where he gets phased out of this Broncos offense. And as soon as he drops a season where he only averages, 10 or 11 points, people are going to start viewing him as a declining asset. So now would be the time to probably get rid of Sutton while you can. Jacoby Myers is a great example. Jacoby Myers lives in that dead zone. Stephon Diggs. I mean, all of those players are only going to go down in value here in the future. The running back being in a timeshare, that's a Dynasty Dead Zone because they only go up in value if they get themselves out of that timeshare. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. Free agency is going to be the key there with those specific Seahawks running backs. The QB Dead Zone for Dynasty. This is where you're stuck with a quarterback that's just mediocre. And this is a great example, Jared Goff. Cam Ward. Anybody that doesn't really provide much rushing upside at all, rushing upside is very important in Dynasty, especially if you're in a Superflex league where passing touchdowns are only 4 points. If you're in a 6-point passing touchdown league, like Joe Burrow can ball out for sure, and Joe Burrow's not one of these guys that's a mid-QB with no rushing upside. But Jared Goff, look at Jared Goff's career average. We've never seen a 20-point-per-game season. 17 points per game is kind of where it's like mid, and then above that, you're kind of happy. So look at his finishes. QB 15, 14, 18, 13, 16, 7, 14. It's mid. It's not going to lose you your league. It's not going to win you your league. It's kind of just a dead zone. And if I personally have one of these guys, there's just a big gap between someone that doesn't have rushing upside and someone that does. I'd be looking to trade Goff to try and get a guy like Jackson Dart, who currently is being undervalued in my eyes, to go and get a guy like Caleb Williams, who before the Bears are, making this playoff run, I think was undervalued. He's now jumping up in the rankings, obviously, but that's an example. The late first and early second round pick, that's a dead zone in itself. You think that these picks are worth more than they actually are. Look at the value of your second round pick right now. If you just look at if you're a early to mid second round pick, if you have the 206 in this year's draft, you're not gonna hit on it. You can only trade it. You can trade your second round pick right now for a guy that has upside. You can go get yourself an Alec Pierce. You can trade for a guy like Oronde Gadsden. Guys that will produce, guys that have upside. Or you can hold on to that pick and you can think that you're going to get something good, but really you end up leaving the draft with Kaytron Allen. a 4th round running back. So, I mean, it's a risk you're definitely willing to take, but just don't buy into the value of those picks being more than what you can currently get if you traded them for a current player. The promising bench wide receiver who never breaks out. We kind of already talked about this. You know, you got guys like Trey Harris, guys like Jack Besh, Tesla. Tesla's a great example, but I do have faith in Tesla. So this is a disclaimer. Tesla is not he'd be a good example if he didn't break out. The breakout's coming for Mr. Tesla. So how do you want to escape it? You escape the dead zone by consolidating. If you have a bunch of these scrubs, Kamara and Montgomery, like we talked about, you want to trade them before it's too late. If I traded Kamara and Montgomery in a 2-for-1 deal before the season, I could have ended up with 3 second-round picks. Now, if I trade both those scrubs, I'm lucky if I get a 6th round. It's not looking good, right? So you understand you can consolidate, make 2-for-1 moves, trade Kamara and Montgomery for a running back that's maybe like Kenneth Walker, and then there's upside in that, there's youth in that. So you want to kind of escape that dead zone by consolidating. Choose the direction for your team. Understand if you are a rebuilder or a contender, you want to make these decisions as well, being planned, and do it before the value declines. Contenders versus rebuilders, that's a good one as well. Like, if you're a contender, the dead zone is just going to be unused points. If you're a contender, you need points to win your league. Guys that aren't scoring, Quentin Johnston, dead zone receiver, kind of like that bench guy that you don't know if he's actually going to break out or not. He had to break out at first. He was getting you the first 4 weeks of the year, 20 points a game, and then he lost you your league. If you sold him after week 4, definitely the risk was there that he was going to keep going, but you would have actually got somebody more stable. If you're a contender, I always tell you to go find somebody stable that can produce in your lineup. Now, if you're a rebuilder and you got somebody on your team that's not, like if you're a rebuilder, you got Kamara and Montgomery, I am trading them for anybody younger, anybody that's like 23 and has some upside in them. Michael Wilson would have been a great rebuilding target. Josh Downs is kind of a good rebuilding target because his value's low, only 24, kind of a slot guy, could get high volume in the future. So Josh Downs kind of could be the next Michael Wilson 2.0. The dead zone is a waste of time. It should be turned into picks. It should be turned into young players. It should be turned into flexibility for your overall roster. Dynasty leagues are not won by being pretty good. They're not. You got to be top of the class. You got to be cream of the crop. They're won by choosing a direction for the team. Let me know down below. Does your roster have some of these dead zone assets? And what are you going to do about it? Go to the Patreon, smash the subscribe button, smash the like button. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.